Hi, unlimited humans, and welcome to Decision Making Embodied, a podcast by Next Level Embodiment, the self empowerment framework for high level decision makers who want to tap into their unlimited power to thrive, win, and impact in spite of all external social and cultural circumstances. Next level embodiment is all about embodying decisions that lead you towards your next level by practicing deep presence, cultivating unlimited vitality levels, and establishing unshakable integrity. Hosted by Art and myself, our guests are thought leaders and influencers who share their experiences and stories of handling tough choices and high pressure decision making, navigating through real life's challenges. For today, in this episode, as a way shower to your next level embodiment, we have Jamie J. She is an existential mentor and a transformational guide for the ones who she takes through the shadow and into the light of love so that you can create a soul aligned and authentic life. So if I had a word about Jamie, she truly is able to see through the absolute darkness and light of who you are. She's able to give you the tools, and without expectations of how you'd use those tools, she's able to make sure that you evolve and expand and become who you truly want to be. Today we'll dive deep into integrity, authenticity. She's got some powerful concept about what we went live in the past, right, Jay, already. And I mean, what else to say if not? Welcome, Jay. Who are you today in integrity with yourself? Who are you showing up as authentically, Jay?
That's a beautiful question. And I'm going to answer it as raw as authenticity requires us to be in our integrity with it. So
Please.
I lost my voice for 3 days. So you get a raw, husky, like voice coming back. It feels good to have my voice back, actually. And I thought, you know what? I could try and postpone this another week so that you had, like, the crystal quality voice. But that's not authentic, is it? This is who I am in this moment, and this is how I get to show up. And
Mm.
I don't need to judge. I don't need to question the quality of my voice because it is my voice that is my power. And however it chooses to be expressed in whatever frequency and whatever tone is exactly how it needs to be in this moment at this time. I'm showing up to you today with a heart heavy with grief. And I am an existential mentor and shadow worker, and it would be inauthentic for me to pretend that my heart is not heavy with grief. Um, and the beauty of being in grief is that it deepens my awareness and my embodiment of love. I was really struggling in life with some challenges around love and showing up as love with certain people and certain situations in my life because there was so much pain attached to it. And I asked universe, I said, I need to know more about how I can show up more powerfully as love and not projecting through my pain. And universe gave me almost 2 weeks of grief. And I'm grateful because it has ripped my heart open. And through those cracks, the light that is coming through is so delicious and radiant that I can't help but be grateful for the grief that I am currently embodying. Yeah.
What a start. What a beginning. All decision makers in the room, all decision makers hearing to this. I do believe that this is embodiment of what Jamie is showing up for. And indeed, as I told you, integrity and authenticity was the topic we were going about. And look at that. Leading by example. Thank you, Jay. Thank you for embodying this part of yourself and showing up vulnerably. This is very important. And indeed, shows how authenticity and authentic leadership and all things be you, hashtag be you, are quite a trend. And many don't necessarily, well, let's use that word, it's a buzzword in here, embody it. They just use it, they just say it. I'm not blaming on anyone here. I'm just kind of putting the context of a society that puts on us social narratives and cool things to follow. And then it ain't necessarily easy and so immediate to implement, as you are in fact showing up as an implementing authenticity, like showing up with a voice that you that part of you may have not liked, and I mean showing up with the emotions also in the work you do, right? It's the work you do to go through what you're going through, like grieve. You help others to go through that, I'm
I
pretty
do.
sure. So
I
you're kind of going through it as you show up.
I believe that to be fully authentic and to be embodied authentic to be embodied in our authenticity, it requires an integration of the whole spectrum of what it is to be human.
Mm.
And a lot of us, we do inner work, and inner work is so important, but it's not the last journey. The deeper journey after inner work is shadow work. And I like to actually call it shadow love. Because if we continue to reject the parts of ourselves that we don't want to see, or we don't want to feel, we don't want to admit, we don't want to acknowledge, if we cannot be vulnerable with ourselves, we are not fully integrated. We are not fully embodied because those parts of us that we don't want are still us.
Mm-hmm.
And integrity and authenticity requires us to love ourselves completely, fully, deeply. Authenticity requires naked vulnerability in all that we are and all that we do. And that doesn't mean that we walk through the world without boundaries. It doesn't mean, and that those boundaries include how we hold ourselves and our emotions. I can be in grief, but I am not grief. And there's a really important distinction between those, because if I identify with my grief as I am, that's not true. And I refuse to allow grief to become my identity, because that's grief without boundaries. And boundaries are love and how I hold myself and my integrity. And in the work I do with people, it's about holding space for the disowned self and pouring all the love, all the light, all the work that we've done in the difficult phase of inner work into the deeper work that is shadow love. So that alignment, the true nature of embodiment, it becomes so unconsciously integrated into our beingness that every action that follows is just inspired by that alignment, by our soul knowing that it belongs in our body, that it is welcome there, and that it is actually not just welcomed as you are here, but it is welcome to use this vessel that is the human form to
Yes.
carry out its purpose.
This is very juicy, and there's a piece. I mean, there's so much that I would like to touch. Pretty much everything that you said, I'd like to touch upon, and that would require many conversations already. First question, and this is for the listeners, is what landed? Because what Jamie J is sharing is truly not the common talk about inner work, about authenticity, about shadow work either, because she already went a step farther by defining it as shadow love, which I found beautiful. What does it take, Jamie, to actually make the decision to step into that choice of doing such deep work on yourself, or deep love to yourself, I might even say? What does it
Yeah.
take to really go there?
Feeling into the words. I think a lot of us, we walk through life as shadows with so many masks, hiding who we are. And the pain that we feel in that inauthenticity is our soul kind of knocking from within, saying, I'm going to give you this pain because you need something to wake you up to the reality of who you are. And because we haven't been taught how to sit with ourselves in the discomfort of that pain, and because we've been conditioned to give our power away to a variety of institutions, or we've had our power taken from us in various traumas, we kind of reject that pain. We don't know how to be with it. But the more we reject it, the more it grows and the more it calls to us, until we find ourselves at a choice point. And that choice point is transform or die. And the interesting thing about that choice point is transformation is also a form of death. We have to recognize that we can choose to continue walking the path of inauthenticity, carrying that wound of pain with us that will only continue to grow and manifest as some physical disease that is also just our body trying to work with our soul to get our attention, to call us along the path, to the path of being authentic. Or we can choose a different form of pain. And that is the form that is allowing ourselves to burn all of the false parts of ourselves, so that we can actually come onto the other side of pain and we can live a life that radiates love, that is so alive that it's not just embodied, it is a life that sucks the marrow out of the very bones of life. And I think that that question, to just finish, is really about recognizing that you have the choice and you are the only person who can make that choice. You can have people like me, mentors, walk alongside you, but all I can do is bring you to the cave of truth. It is up to you to enter it. I can meet you on the other side and I can support you on integrating it. I can hold you while you're in that cave to just like help you know that you're not alone in the darkness. But there is a moment of truth where you have to accept that if you truly want to live the life that you knew when you were a child was yours to live and you got disconnected from, you have to choose it. And that is devotion. You devote yourself to life, to every manifestation of life, including pain, sorrow, grief, heartache, and recognizing that each is a gift that actually will transform you if you choose to be in it rather than identify as it.
All right. Wow. So here, I cannot avoid, if you want to kind of take this idea of dying to oneself, choosing to die, because this is what I heard, that transformation is a form of death. And in the personal growth and personal development arena, industry, zone, whatever, uh, there's this idea of transformation, of transforming, of growth, continuous growth. And many are having hard times to
Absolutely.
choose to
Mhm.
grow. So, I mean, make a decision. And I like to call it that decision, because
Mhm.
decision and rescission, I say it almost always kind of recently.
Yep.
Decision and rescission have the same root, and reside means to take like away and remove something, and decide is going for something as you remove the rest. There's side, chidere, which is like cut
Yep.
off from something, and just go for what you decided
Yep.
for. And this is what I hear from you. Like, there's this death that happens. Um, how would you deal? Because the brain, and usually we start this conversation on decision making embodied with a little bit of the science of decision making.
Mhm.
So we kind of know how our brain is wired, and it fires with older traumas, and it has all these resistances and all this familiarity that is looking for. So it's kind of letting some familiar part of you die and go for a radically new one. How do you deal with that in your choice? Like when you have to embark on a choice that kind of you're aware is almost like a little death of your ego. By the way, bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul, and our soul
Yeah,
signed us up for something in
yeah,
here, as you said with different words earlier, like beautiful. So as you had to embark in that kind of choice of
yeah,
dying to yourself,
yeah.
how do you choose that, Jay?
You decide what you want.
Uh,
You look you
uh-huh.
look at life and you look at it as a buffet.
Ooh.
And you can choose to starve yourself of life,
Uh,
or you can choose to eat life.
mm,
You
mm,
can recognize that you are actually hungry to be alive. And that to be alive, actually, in the hunger requires you to eat. It requires you to satisfy your thirst. It requires you to fill your belly so that your belly can digest all that it needs to digest and send all of that nutrients into the rest of your body and into your soul.
mhm.
And the thing that we need to eat is love. And the transformational process is one that is painful. And I talk with people about this all the time, and I hold space for people through this because there's so many illusions that we accepted as fact, that we accepted as truth, that we have to acknowledge are not what we perceive them to be. For example, we don't have control over most of what life is. Our only control is in how we meet life, how we respond to life, how we hold ourselves as the deep, loving presence that is the eye of the storm, that is the chaos of life. And if you think into nature, because I always love to bring nature into my work, is you watch an eagle or even just a seagull, and the way that they fly and the way that they ride the wave, the ocean currents or the air currents. That eagle's intuition, that gull's intuition is so fine tuned that it knows in the chaos of winds which current to ride. And we as humans, as biological like animals, we have that same wild instinct. It's our intuition.
We
And we need
do,
to learn
yeah.
to trust it to carry us into life in such a way that we will be submerged in life, that we will be brought into the power of love, which is life. And I know that's a
Mm,
really like deep way of answering the question, but it really is that deep of a choice. It's not a simple choice. We can talk about it as simple. You have this choice or you have that choice. But when you're standing on the precipice of having to make a choice to fully drink the juice of life or to choose to allow yourself to remain thirsty,
mm.
that is a really powerful choice. That is not an easy decision
It's
because if
not
you
an
choose
easy
to
one, yeah.
remain thirsty, you choose to remain in the illusions that you have crafted to keep yourself in some sense of safety and security. But when you fully understand that life is anything but safe and secure, it's not. It's a miracle. It is a mystery and it is delicious and it is juicy. And you can choose safety, security, or you can choose to just be in life as life. And that is a really uncertain place to put yourself, because the only
Uh-huh.
certainty you have is this moment.
Hmm.
And you have to devote yourself to living a life that is completely rooted in the now, in the here and the now. Yes, I know that I'm a forward thinking, forward moving being, but all I have certain to me is what I do in this moment. It is the only certainty I have
Hmm.
outside of how I respond to this moment and what choices I make in this moment to fully immerse myself in this beautiful experience that my soul has chosen to embody as a human.
Hmm. It is, without the shadow of a doubt,
Mm.
a deep answer to the question.
It
And
is.
it is the most true answer you could give.
Yeah.
I believe that you listening from home also have this feeling that you've got something in your hands right now and you cannot wait to use it. um,
Yeah.
and indeed, and Jamie, please correct me if I am interpreting wrong, or like going off what you said. But what I heard is in certain way and extremely simplified, that intuition and developing the ability to use that intuition is sort of the way. And then we might even drift off for the roads, for the unlimited roads, that what is intuition means. But kind of staying here, that intuition is the answer to
Yeah.
to the question, like tapping into that intuition, developing that intuition that allows you to stay true, to stay true and stay present
Mhm.
to who you are in the moment.
Yeah. I would say that there's a trinity of
Okay.
that is the answer. And the intuition is one of those. And I
Hmm.
feel really
What are the
called
two?
to share the wisdom of a child in this moment. And I think I shared this on one of our lives. And
Uh-huh.
we have three brains. And I
Hmm.
remember sitting with my child. She was about 7 or 8, my daughter. She's so wise. And I told her this. I'm like, you actually have three brains. She's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, just sit with me for a minute. We're just going to breathe into this sentence, right? We have
Fabulous.
three brains. And I said, I want you to feel into your body and feel if what I just gave you as, an understanding of life, if it resonates true for you. So she sat there and she felt into her body. She's like, you're right. I have three brains. And I said, what are they? And she said, well, obviously I have my mind, my brain here. And she said, but I have my heart. And she goes, and I think, but I might be wrong, I have my tummy. And I said, yes, you
Hmm.
do. Now, can you tell me what each one of those brains does to serve you? And she said, yeah, my brain is what takes in all the information. My heart tells me what to feel about it, and my gut tells me what to do about it.
Oh my God. I couldn't hold back from screaming almost. A kid. I love, I love what you
And
just
that's the
shared.
beauty of children. That's the beauty, not just of being with an actual child, but connecting to your inner child. When I was a teacher in the classroom, working with children, it kept me in connection with my inner child, because a child knows who they are. A child
Oh.
knows what they're here, not just
Hmm.
to do, but who they're here to be. And through that beingness, what they're here to do. The
Hmm.
child knows that. And when I worked with teenagers, I got them at a point in their life where they're in this like beautiful rebellion, and their rage is just like unbelievably inspiring and a little bit intimidating. But that is the beauty of being a teenager. And their rebellion and their rage was against the imposition of people telling them who they should be. And they're still
Uh-huh.
in this magic zone of
Yeah.
trying to resist. But by the time they graduate, it's like their will has been broken. So few of them actually commit to a path of authenticity. Instead,
Oh,
so many of them commit to a path of doing what they think they should be doing, what the conditioned mind tells them is the right path. And I don't tell a lot of people that I've done work with teenagers, young adults, I should say, transitioning from high school into university. I do that work for free. And I do it for very specific and very the right youth to work with, the right young minds.
mhm,
And the shadow work that I do to help facilitate that transition is
mhm.
incredibly potent. And it is also for me, it grounds me further into why I want to help adults come back to themselves.
Of
Because
course.
the wound of being dislocated from your true self, like we think we don't belong in the world because we forgot that we belong to our body. We forgot that we belong to ourselves. In doing the work to support a person to come into alignment with the mind, the heart, and the gut, that is alignment.
Mhm,
That is
mhm.
embodiment. When those three brains are working and meeting the world, your power is immeasurable.
Yeah, it's 100% immeasurable. You said that right. And look, now kind of taking these and putting it into something that I mean, you've already gave that actually. I mean, this is what I'd like to say. Jay here already gave us some powerful framework, if you want, to make sure that you follow the right brain
Mm.
when you make decisions. Okay, and um, apart from the story that you told, that was definitely very powerful, about how kids
Yeah.
are still there and then like we grow into someone, and that you remember, you reminded me of how my thesis for my, not even the bachelor, what it was, for that, my thesis was about masks,
Yeah.
and how they're trying to put on me a mask, and that was my thesis, like you're trying to put on
Yeah.
me a mask, and I don't want it. What should I do with it, right? and and this goes back to the authenticity and the choice. And I'm curious to ask, what are little reminders that we can put to ourselves to make sure that such an authenticity,
Mhm.
uh, and such an integrity is preserved, right? How can we put it all around us as we go through life and keep on making choices, because we can't
Yeah.
stop making choices, we can't stop making decisions,
Yeah.
and we're used to make certain decisions rather than others. But how do we install all around us a system, a guideline,
Mm.
uh,
Okay.
that helps us through that?
Okay. I have two answers. The first answer is always going to be for me the philosophical and metaphysical answer. And that is really understand embodiment is to be in the body. You have to
Uh-huh.
be in your feelings. You have to
Uh-huh.
be present with your feelings. So, for example, if you're exhausted, understand that exhaustion is asking you to reevaluate your relationship with your boundaries. It's asking you to actually reflect and meditate on how am I investing my time and energy and what is the value of this investment? And having the
Mhm.
courage to exercise the sacred no, which I just want to remind people no is a full sentence. You don't have to explain why. I mean, you can if you desire to, and your heart knows that that's the most authentic thing to do to offer an explanation. But also know that sometimes an explanation is not going to make a difference to the person who isn't ready to receive your sacred no. And to be able to hold yourself in the integrity of that no, and to actually love yourself and that other person by not offering an explanation because you've gifted them an opportunity to sit in their own discomfort. It's not for you to fix them or save them from that. If you're feeling angry, anger is beautiful. Anger is asking you to check in again with your boundaries, but in a slightly different way. It's not about your time and your energy. It's about what boundaries are being violated, what values are being violated, and what does this teach me about who I am and what I stand for? Because what you stand for is where you find your integrity, right? Like, I'm not willing to compromise, and
Mm,
anger comes up to say, no, I'm not
mm,
compromising this part of myself. And we have to be able to know to work with anger so that, like I used to speak with teenagers, your rage is beautiful. It is epic, but it is not helping you. It is actually compromising your integrity because you don't know how to use it effectively. So it's learning
mhm.
to
That's
sit with these
fire. It's
bodies.
literally fire.
It is fire, and you have to be respectful of fire. Now, I'll give an example of that. When I burned my wedding dress, a lot of people thought it was an act of rage against my ex. It had nothing to do with him. My dress was a representation of a part of me that no longer existed. And I needed to, in some way for myself, I needed to create a ceremony that released her, that allowed her to go in peace and in love. And the dress was the body I had to burn. And I allowed fire to consume that. But the fire was not rage. The fire was grief, and the fire was letting go, and the fire was reclamation. And it was using fire in a powerful way and allow people to have the assumptions that they had about why I did that. Right. But I knew that it had nothing to do with rage and anger, but I knew that there was some anger in there, but it wasn't just anger at him. It wasn't just anger at myself. It was just anger, and
Mhm.
allowing fire
Fire.
to symbolically burn that
Mm,
away rather than be the fire and just burn, right? And cause damage. I didn't want to do that. And so I found a different way to work with it. And fire is
mhm.
so
Yeah.
my first answer to that is you have to become comfortable with feeling. And you have to be comfortable in such a way that you meet your feelings as sacred elders. They are
Oh,
teachers.
yes.
They are here to guide you. My second
Mhm.
answer to that is a shameless plug. In my program that I'll be releasing and opening I'm releasing in the next few days and opening in May, it's a system and it's a process. I don't promise you fully embodied authenticity at the end, but what I do offer you in 3 months is mentorship on how to be able to create this system that you're asking me to answer, is to embody this system so that when you find yourself in that choice point, right, you know a process that you can put yourself
Mhm.
through to make that choice so that you
Mhm.
know how to become devoted to yourself, devoted to life, devoted to drinking the marrow out of life. And so, two
That's
questions, like it is. And I love to support people in implementing that system. I love to hold
Mhm.
space for people. Patience. Patience is such a big point of this whole process is patience. Because if you do not know that this journey that you choose to go on to fully be authentic and embodied and in the integrity of life, it is lifelong. You will
Oh,
never enter a 3 month, 6 month, year-long program that is going to give you the destination, because the destination is not the point. The journey is the adventure. The journey is your odyssey. Fucking live it.
mhm.
Live it.
Uh,
Drink it.
yes, yes, yes.
Drown yourself in it, because you have the gift of life to be in the miracle and the mystery of life. Your soul gets to know what it's like to breathe air as a human. It knows what it's like to feel pain in your heart and to be transformed by pain if you choose to allow it. Because what's on the other side of pain is you cannot describe that to another person. It's like trying to tell a person, even another woman, what it's like to become a mother for the first time. You cannot explain that to a person. All I've ever said to somebody is, I can hardly wait to meet you on the other side so I can hear your story. And so you
Beautiful.
describe for you in your words and with your energy and your frequency and your awe of the
Uh-huh.
miracle that you just were transformed by. I get to be in the awe that you give me to experience with you.
Hmm. Okay, I'll go back.
Yeah.
I did because you're tricky. You're a tricky guest here because you're dropping wisdom at the rate of a hurricane. It's very powerful, and I can only do my best here um, by finding almost slogans, almost taglines, like
Yeah.
feeling the feeling as a way, indeed, feeling the feelings, feeling the emotions, learning how to feeling those emotions, learning how to stay with those feelings comfortably. So comfortably uncomfortable, most
Yes.
likely.
Yes. Yes.
And that will be sort of the answer to, well, how you actually get to understand you got a tough decision, a tough choice to make. And well, it's up to you to pose and go about it. But go about it means go about it from within yourself, from whatever is coming up with it, like whatever emotion is surfacing. And yeah, this is a pretty wonderful process. Also, thank you for sharing that that's what you do, like, and that's what you are accompanying people through. And I believe many who may want to reach out to you, Jay, uh, will find the amazing super soul you are. um, so before dropping into one tough decision that you've made in your life, I've got a little game. Okay,
Okay.
this game and how it goes, it's very simple. Okay, it's hypothetical scenarios, and you need to make a decision. And so I will go about it. Are you
Hmm.
ready?
I'm ready.
And
I'm always
from home, test yourself as well. From home, driving, or the office, wherever you're listening this from. But now you are witnessing a car accident.
mm,
So this is not a nice scenario that I'm proposing to you. Okay, you're witnessing a car accident, and you are going to somewhere extremely important to you. And let's put it almost like a lose the flight situation. So witnessing the car accident, going to the plane, you're already kind of late, and that plane takes you to somewhere very important. May that be your kids
mm,
graduation, because you're co-parenting, but you're not with your kids at the moment, or uh, someone from your family passing away, or something that's kind of like once in a lifetime,
mhm.
and you witness a car accident. And well, you have values probably, and you want to help, and so on and so forth. What would you do?
Hmm. A little bit of like context here. So if I was to come across the car accident, but there were already people on scene and the situation was already being handled, um, I
Mm,
would probably stop and I would ask if there was any assistance needed. And if
right.
it was clearly obvious that there wasn't, then I'm free to go. If I'm the
Mm,
first person on the scene, I'm called to be there. I might have this idea of where I'm headed in my life and why I need to be there. But if I am witnessing a tragedy, I'm witnessing this person, this situation, this trauma, and I am the only person there to be witness to it and to serve in that moment another life. That is where been called to be in that moment. And that is truly understanding what it is to live in the moment rather than the past and the future. If I'm the
Hmm.
first person on scene, maybe I have been called to save that person's life. Maybe I have been called to make the call that will pull their car out of the ravine. Maybe I am the
Mhm.
person who has been called to hold them while they take their last breath.
Right. And okay, what would you do then? Like if you were in that moment, what would you do? You pose. Actually, I'm saying what you do it by saying you pose wasn't
Yeah.
intended, but but what would you, that wasn't intended, but you can see how biased I am in my work anyway. So I would
Yeah.
pose probably.
Yeah.
What would you do like to make that choice, to make that decision? What would be the first thing that you witness the car accident and you perfectly know where you're going because you're running towards
Yeah.
the plane in that 1 second split of time, what
Stop.
happens to Jay? Stop.
Stop and serve. Stop.
Stop and
And that
serve.
stop, like when you ask me that question, I feel it in my gut, right? Like
Right.
my gut says, this is it. This is your moment. This is the moment. And this is how you have been called to live in this moment.
Mhm.
There is no
Mm.
question. There
Uh-huh.
is awareness of I might be disappointing people, I might be losing an opportunity, like all of these ifs, right? Or these things that I will
Mm.
have to tend to after this moment in the moments that follow. But this moment is what I'm being called to be present in. This is how I'm being called to serve. And in this service, I am being gifted an experience that I never knew was going to be placed on my path. And
Hmm.
through this
Hmm.
experience, I will have been gifted by following that feeling in my gut that I stop and I serve. I will be gifted wisdom. I will be gifted power. And possibly, I don't know the answer to this for certainty, beyond what the destination I thought I was moving towards was going to give me. I have to trust in universe that being called to serve here and now in this moment is the exact experience I needed, the exact medicine I needed to carry with me on my journey.
Huh. So powerful, so beautiful.
I've been called to do this, by the way. So you're not giving me a hypothetical. I've been in this situation many times. Yeah.
Right. You see, I mean,
Yeah.
I felt
Yeah.
it coming, and so I asked.
Yeah.
So uh, this is be more lighthearted. Okay.
Okay.
The
I
next
like this.
one,
Yeah.
um, you are in a full out of the civilization kind of situation. There's I mean, few humans left, absolutely
This
no
is
production
lighthearted.
of food. That no, it's not. No, I know, I'm sorry. So yeah, the description. You're right, you're right, I agree with you. That's
Oh my
perceptions,
God.
right?
I love it.
But no, but but the kind of choice definitely is, I
Mm.
swear, this kind of choice definitely
Yeah.
is. I've probably been used too much to movies of the end of the world now
Yeah.
that got me normal on that. So you enter this situation and you got a choice in between two foods here. You're in without with some other survivors, and um, you've got in front of you the very last, and you know it being the very last um, um, plate of um, your favorite dish,
Yeah.
and on the other side you have to choose another dish. And actually, you see, I said that wrong. Let's start it over. So
Yeah. Okay,
so you're
you're
into
going.
this situation,
Yeah.
you're in this situation, and you have an extremely rare but delicious, and you know you love it like with your whole self. You have no idea of whether
Mhm.
it's possible to find more or not, and
Mhm.
you do have your favorite food right next to you. You know you will find more, but it's
Mhm.
your favorite, and you have the choice. You have these two things, and I mean, it's either one or the other. and there's other survivors, right? You don't know how long it will take to find eventually your favorite food, and you have no certainty about it. But what would you choose and why?
So I have a question, because as you're asking this, I feel like those other people are an important part of this question. In the choice I make, is there a choice that includes them?
That includes the other survivors.
Yeah, like there's other survivors in this question. So like I want to know what their purpose is in the question.
Oh, I mean, they would eat the other one. I mean, you eat one, you get to choose one. The other eat for the others. They are hungry too,
Okay.
and great question.
So I can eat one and I
Absolutely.
can have it all to myself, or I can eat the other one and I can share it.
I mean, the one that you choose, you get to eat,
Okay.
and the other one, someone else will eat it,
Okay.
and it's gone.
I'm always going to choose what I can share. And I'll answer that question because we're talking about dystopia. We're talking about the end of the world. We're talking about
Wow,
people having
yes.
gone through something that we all fear. Because, I mean, are we not already living a dystopian reality in so many ways? And in the dystopia, so I was an English teacher. I've studied this stuff for years. In every dystopia, it is passion, it is courage, it is sacrifice, it is not doing what is best for you, but doing what is best on behalf of others. That is actually what transforms the future. And so I'm always going to make the choice that might not satisfy me completely in that moment, but that over time will grow to satisfy me in a way I could never have imagined. And for me, that looks like making the choice that ensures that other people are fed, because metaphorically, the plate of food that I am choosing to share is love. And through sharing with the intention of loving, I'm actually also now, it's like my fire, I'm asking other people to come and light their torches at my fire rather than keeping it to myself. And that means now that the world burns brighter. Every heart that is touched by my decision to not act exclusively for myself in that moment. I mean, there are times when acting exclusively for yourself are powerful and potent and necessary, but in the context that you're telling
Absolutely.
me, no, because by making a choice that serves others alongside myself, I now get to ignite hope and faith in the power of love in others, which just makes the world that I get to move through brighter. And therefore, that dish that is exquisite and delicious and rare, I actually recognize that what I could do on the other side of that question was more precious and more sacred and more rare.
Ah, look at that. I want to recognize you people, acknowledge and send love to this soul that is walking on earth. I wish you find in that fallout situation, if it happens and you are with Jay, guys, because this was a demonstration of embodiment of values, the value of love, and then the value of caring for others that she's bringing all in and full on onto decision making embodied today. Wow, Jay, I love how you made our game segment this beautifully deep uh, and profound. I really, really love it. And anyways, I mean, this was this was really, really fun to ask to you, and thank you for your answers. I do see, and I hope that inspired you who are listening. So as we transition out of this profound yet funny game, I want to understand a little bit of your tough decision making process. Yeah. And we want to really bring it to our listeners. There's this indeed idea of, authenticity and integrity that you showed up
Mhm.
for and with so greatly. Like the way you're able to listen to your gut or to your heart, and then maybe rationalize it, it's very powerful and inspiring. And now I'd love to know, what was the time when you had to choose of the lesser between the lesser of two evils, like a very tough decision. What was the worst decision? Not the worst decision, yeah, the toughest. Indeed, that's literally what I mean. The toughest decision you have to make, you had
Yeah.
to make in life. Rambled a little bit on this question, but
Okay. I had to choose myself. Like,
uh-huh.
that's the simple answer. Because everything that comes after choosing you is so hard. It comes with so much liberation and so much pain. And I just want to remind people that freedom does not come without the cost of pain. Freedom is so powerful. It is so potent. It is our birthright. And we live in a world that conditions us to perceive that we are not free. And yet, our freedom is who and what we are. And to fight against a system that keeps us in a limiting belief that we are not free, it requires sacrifice. And sacrifice comes with pain. And when I chose in my moments, I knew when I went into I've been in many dark nights of the soul. I've had cancer. I have, I like, I've had respiratory, I've had like illness, physical illness, almost all of my life. I've been in pain. My dark night of the soul that I went into 3 years ago was my choice point. All of those parts leading up to it were opportunities, but this was my choice point. I knew that I had to transform or die. And dying for me wasn't about continuing to live an inauthentic life. Dying for me was actually choosing to die. And the woman in me had made that choice. She was so tired. I was so tired of fighting. I was so tired. I lost my will to fight. And there was this powerful wild instinct in me that is called a mama's heart. And the mother in me picked up the broken woman and said, "You will fight, we will fight for your children, for our children. We will choose to transform. You will choose yourself. You will choose love because you are love." And in that choice, I had to recognize each and every part of my life that I had built up until that point that I could no longer live, because I knew that in the transformation, the things that I was going back to in my life, like my career as a teacher, for example, it was like being an adult and trying to fit back into clothes you wore when you were a teenager. They just don't fit anymore, and you have to let them go. And letting go of my career was something I knew I should have done a long time ago, but I loved working with teenagers so much. I grieved that decision, even though I knew it was best for me. Not working with children broke my heart. I loved them. I still love them. I still feel into how much I miss working with them, and my heart still breaks. And I have to hold that heartbreak alongside the gratitude I have for the life I'm living now, which is me. I had to look at my partner and best friend of half my life and say, "I love you and I want us to do this together, but you have to want to do it too." And I had to put myself into the vulnerable position of allowing him to make his choice, because true love required me to acknowledge that he had to make his own decisions. And he chose to divorce. That was not what I wanted. But you know what I wanted more? I wanted to be myself. I wanted to not have to compromise myself anymore and live in the pain of being inauthentic. I didn't want to live like that. And so now I'm working through the grief of the biggest dream I ever had was having a family and being able to offer my children something that I didn't have, that my parents didn't have. And that was a family that was together, that wasn't broken, that was having a mom and a dad who modeled what it took to keep love burning and to offer them that experience that I wanted so desperately as a kid. And I'm now grieving that dream, it was probably never, I don't think it was ever authentic in the context that I tried to create it in, because I tried to create it in an inauthentic sense of who I was. And so every decision that we make from a place of love and devotion to our life and to being fully alive as ourselves, it requires you to live alongside grief of all of the things that you thought you wanted, all of the things that you thought you were building that you can't bring with you, and having the courage to let them go. And to have the courage to trust that when you walk in alignment in this universe, not just on this earth, but in this universe, that what is going to come to you, what is not just meant for you, but what you attract, the frequency of love that you hold for yourself, and the devotion to the integrity that you hold for yourself, to be that frequency, you will attract more than you could have ever possibly imagined for yourself. That is the hardest choice I've ever made.
I heard it loud and clear. That was the hardest choice you ever made. And I can see why. I can see how. It was definitely something extremely hard to hold.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you are showing up with that.
Mm-hmm.
We started the same conversation.
Yeah.
And that was about grief.
Yeah.
And you're really leading the way.
Mm-hmm.
You're really leading the way for the ones who listen, for myself as well, for your kids. So to all decision makers who are listening in this very moment, I want to command you to ask yourself, how would have you handled it? How would have you gone about this choice? And as the answer comes up, understand that that is your true voice that speaks, or it might be the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to recognize it.
Yeah.
So this is what happens in tough decision time. There's something extremely powerful happening, a little death, the choice to die.
Which one feels the most peaceful? Not the easiest. Peace is not easy. Which one makes you feel the most at home in your heart and in your gut, in your body? If you want to talk about embodiment, what choice makes you feel embodied? To feel comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah. Which choice comes and truly comes from you?
I have a question for you, if it's okay to ask it in this moment.
Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll have this last piece for our audience.
Okay. So it's a question for you, and it's a question for your audience. What gift does grief bring you? And just take a minute and really think and feel. Actually, don't think. Feel the answer. What gift does grief offer you?
Tapping into the heart to actually feel. Thank you for the question.
What greater gift is there than that, than to be in your heart, to be in the seat of love? The sacrifice that led to the deep grief that I am currently feeling in my most authentic way of showing up here in this moment. Every moment I spend in reverence with grief, I am just only led deeper into love.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel that within yourself.
Yeah, my answer would that to that question would that be indeed the grief, all the griefy moments of my life when appreciated, when embodied, when processed. So not hidden below the carpet, and then maybe grief was coming out as anger or frustration or sadness or whatever else, just because I didn't process it and embraced it indeed. My answer would have been an ease
Mm.
that it brings me appreciation for what I'm letting go of, from what I'm losing. True appreciation, true uh, understanding, true love for what I am, not either possessing, living with, or like a phase of life that's over, maybe. So that's what grief brings to me,
Yeah.
and I invite you all to sit with it a bit more if you didn't get the chance to have that feeling, and see what are the grieving moments.
What does grief bring you? What gift does grief bring you?
Yeah, what gift does grief
And
bring
don't
you, and
think
and
your
what were the
answer.
moments?
Don't
Huh?
think your answer. Feel your answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Go into the body and feel the answer. The words will come to mind. You will eventually think your answer, but go into your body first.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful question.
Yeah.
And so now, as we transition to the last piece of today's episode with you
Mhm.
about authenticity, integrity, values, and showing up as such, truly embodied decision making out of that space. A system, an
Mhm.
approach, a process that you may have created for yourself and that works for yourself or for your clients, or that you just into it in this very moment. Can you share it in a few simple steps for the ones who listen?
I can. Um,
Thank you, Jay.
I can both share it in a few simple steps, and if time permits, I can also offer a very powerful activity, a practice to use that can be used anytime. The very simple process is learning how to hold space for yourself. And
Mm.
to do that, you have to first know where you are. It's like I want you to imagine for a second that you are lost in the wilderness and you're panicking, right? You don't know what is real and what's going on. And um, this teacher was beautiful, and he actually lost. He got us lost in the wilderness, and he had us stand around in a circle and just chant, "Where the hell are we?" Until we actually remembered where we were, and we were able to find ourselves out of the woods because we he got us out of fear and into our bodies and into our internal system, into our internal compass. And so you have to know where you are to know where you're going. And to commit and devote yourself to where you're going, you need to live in the presence of death in every moment. You have to commit to love, loving yourself, commit to the inner work, and then commit to the shadow love. Inner work has to come before shadow love, because in the shadow, what you meet and the pain and the discomfort, you have to know how to hold space for yourself with love. And when you can integrate the inner work and the shadow work and come out the other side blazing your own path, right? This is where I'm just like, I'm in it now. I'm going, right? Like I've got this new sense of like energy and momentum and I'm moving forward. This is like your beingness and inspired action. This is a space of reflection and contemplation and trying to figure out who you are until you arrive at this moment where you're like, here I am. Here I am. And to know in that moment, tarot will teach us this, right? The whole tarot series. that wheel of fortune, you will go back through the cycle again and again and again and again. And your devotion to that process, to the journey and not the destination, because the only destination you're certain is death. It's the only destination that is certain, is to devote yourself to that process. Where am I? Devote myself to like the process of like being myself by living in the presence of death, loving myself, going into the parts of myself I don't want to see because they need the most love in order for me to know what path I need to walk in order to feel the most alive. That's the process
Beautiful.
that I teach. And I hold space for people while they navigate through that process, because especially if you're new to shadow work, having somebody with you to be able to answer questions, or if you're having a particular powerful existential crisis, to be able to like leave a WhatsApp message with somebody and just say, I'm losing my shit. And it's like, cool. So happy
Totally.
you're here.
So happy you're doing that.
Right? Yeah,
Yes,
I'm losing
yes,
it. It's
yes.
like, no, you're finding it. You're finding it. You're not losing it. Let's shift the framework, right? I'm excited to be here with you because on the other side of this is what you're searching for, right? But having somebody with you to be able to support you in that moment of existential crisis can really make or break the experience and the devotion to authenticity until you
Uh,
learn to do it for you. Have somebody teach you how to hold space for yourself by allowing them, having the vulnerability to allow them to hold space for you.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So
That's
there's my
a
process.
beautiful process. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And look, I don't know. You said you do have something else to share. Like, what would that be? I'm curious because now you put that thing in the ears, and maybe we can even have that offer to the ones who choose to reach out eventually, and to be one on one or like personally in your space in whatever that uh, you
This one
open
came
up for
through very
them.
clearly as a download. This one came through as a download. It's not meant for me to hold in that way.
Okay, okay.
This is how I want to conclude, is when you are sitting on the precipice and you are in fear, I want you to remember a moment where your compassion poured out of you into another person who is feeling what you feel now. I want you to feel your heart pouring love into that person. And I want you to literally take your arms and put them around your body like a hug. And I want you to gather the love that you know you have to offer to others. And I want you to physically visualize pulling it into your own heart to support you in that moment of decision to jump or stay on the ledge.
This was already very powerful, and I just took few moments to do that, but keep that in mind. And if you want to remember it, just come back to this episode, just come back to this podcast. My suggestion is that you would re-listen to it all because it's gonna be transformational, and I know you maybe won't have the time to re-listen to it all. When you need this, just come to the end of this episode and find it back. It's for you. And Jay, you were so graceful
Mm,
and compassionate in for offering this, for sharing this with the decision makers who are listening and who are on their journey towards
yeah.
embodiment, towards embodying their next level and embodying whatever their soul signed them up for, because we're all in the same boat. So you who are on
Mm,
this journey,
yes.
thank you for listening. Thank you
Yes.
for listening and learning about decision making, with us, with Jamie and I, and about integrity and about values. And I hope it was inspiring for you. My encouragement is that if you felt with whatever of the three brains you have that this can be useful to someone, share this episode. Share this episode with them because it might be life changing. That might be someone literally on the precipice, ready to jump down because can't hold no more, and they listen to these words and they wouldn't. So take this seriously. Share these. We deeply encourage you. Jay was amazing, and my reminder is also to tune in the next time for, well, yet another powerful, inspiring, and transformational conversation about decision making embodied.
Yes.
Stay unlimited, you all. And thank you, Jay. If you have one last word, what would that be?
To each of you listening and on this path, I see you. I celebrate you. And I fucking love you for choosing you, because there is no greater power that you have than who you are.
Fabulous. Then, my dear decision makers, stay unlimited and choose well.